If you struggle with discipline, listen closely, because the next 3 days can rewrite your entire life. You're not failing because you're weak. You're not inconsistent because you're broken. You're struggling because no one ever taught you that discipline is not a feeling. It's a decision. Every dream you've buried, every goal you paused, every promise you made to yourself, they're all waiting for the moment you finally say, enough. I deserve more than excuses. The truth is simple. Your life changes the moment your standards change. Not next month, not when things get better. Right now, for the next 3 days, I want you to choose one action, just one, and commit to it like your future depends on it. Because it does. Not because it's easy, not because you feel motivated, but because your future self is begging you to show up. And here's the emotional punch. In 3 days, you won't just be more disciplined. You'll be a different person. A person who follows through, a person who finishes, a person who finally believes, I can change my life. You don't need perfect discipline. You just need today and the courage to begin. If you struggle with discipline, listen to me, because the next few minutes might become the turning point of your entire life. You are not losing because you're incapable. You're not stuck because you're lazy. You're stuck because no one ever showed you the truth. Discipline is not something you wait to feel. It's something you decide to become. Every morning you wake up, you're given a choice, not between success and failure, but between old habits and new standards. And most people choose comfort, not because they want comfort, but because they don't believe they're worthy of more. But you are. You always were. The problem isn't that you can't change. The problem is that you've been trying to change without changing the identity behind your habits. You say you want a better life. You say you want success, confidence, financial freedom, peace. But wanting isn't enough. Desire is the spark, but discipline is the engine. And your life will not transform until you raise your standards higher than your excuses. The moment you stop negotiating with your weakness, everything you want begins to move toward you. For the next 3 days, I want you to commit to one simple action, even if it's small, because small actions repeated without exception build something more powerful than motivation. They build identity. Motivation comes and goes, but identity stays. When you show yourself that you follow through, even in small ways, you begin to trust yourself again. And when you trust yourself, discipline becomes natural. This isn't about never failing. This isn't about being perfect. This is about becoming the person who keeps going even when it's hard. This is about proving to the old version of you, the one who doubted, delayed, and feared, that a new version has arrived, one who refuses to stay average. And here's the part people rarely say out loud: the pain of discipline is real, but it's temporary. The pain of regret is permanent. You can endure a little discomfort today, or you can endure a lifetime of wondering who you could have been. One of those pains weighs ounces. The other weighs tons. So choose the lighter pain. Choose the future that's calling your name. Choose to show up today, tomorrow, and the next day. Not because you feel ready, but because you're done living below your potential. In 3 days, you won't become perfect, but you will become different, stronger, sharper, more committed. And once you taste what discipline does to your confidence, you will never go back. Your life doesn't change when the world believes in you. Your life changes when you finally believe in you. And that belief starts with one decision. Today, discipline is not a talent. You are not born with it, you do not inherit it, and it is not reserved for a chosen few. Discipline is a decision, a daily choice you make, regardless of how you feel. People wait for motivation, they wait for energy, they wait for the right moment, but discipline doesn't grow in perfect conditions. It grows in the moments when you feel tired, unmotivated, or uncertain, yet you still choose to move forward. Think about the most successful people you admire. They are not superhuman. They simply decided that their goals mattered more than their excuses. They decided that showing up was non-negotiable. They decided that who they wanted to become was worth more than the temporary comfort of staying the same. Discipline starts with a single moment when you say, I'm doing this, even if I don't feel like it. A decision is powerful because it creates direction. Once you decide that your future matters, you start acting differently. You stop letting your emotions dictate your actions. You stop allowing procrastination to win. You stop talking yourself out of your own potential. A real decision removes all other options. It closes the door on excuses and opens the door to consistency. The beautiful part is that anyone can make this decision. You don't need special skills, you don't need to be gifted, and you don't need to have everything figured out. You just need to choose. Discipline is built through simple choices repeated over time. Every time you follow through, you strengthen your identity. You begin to trust yourself. You start seeing evidence that you are capable of change. This is why discipline is so powerful. Once you decide, your life no longer moves by accident. It moves by intention. It moves by purpose. It moves because you chose to stop waiting and start becoming. And the moment you realize discipline is a decision, not a talent, you take back control of everything you once thought was impossible. Your results are not random, and they're not a mystery. They are the direct reflection of the standards you live by every single day. Most people think their dreams are too big, but the real problem is that their standards are too small. You cannot expect extraordinary results while accepting ordinary habits. Your life will always rise or fall to the level of what you consistently tolerate. Your effort, your focus, your discipline, your environment, your routines. Every outcome you see on the outside begins with a standard you hold on the inside. If you wake up whenever you feel like it, if you work only when you're motivated, if you allow excuses to win whenever things get uncomfortable, then your results will mirror that inconsistency. Not because you're incapable, but because your standards are not aligned with the future you're trying to build. High-level results come from high-level expectations of yourself. Not perfection, but a refusal to settle for behavior that contradicts your goals. Look closely at anyone who is thriving, and you'll notice something. Their standards are non-negotiable. They don't wait for the right mood or convenient timing. They show up because showing up is who they are. They choose habits that match the life they want, not the life they're trying to escape. They understand that success isn't built in a single breakthrough moment. It's built in 1,000 silent choices no one else sees. When you raise your standards, you raise your life. You stop accepting the bare minimum from yourself. You stop allowing distractions, laziness, and inconsistency to be part of your identity. You begin to demand more from your time, more from your actions, and more from your potential. And when your standards rise, your results have no choice but to rise with them. The results you have today are simply the proof of the standards you lived yesterday. The results you'll have tomorrow will be shaped by the standards you set right now. Change your standards and you change everything. If you don't control your mind will control you. And this is one of the most important truths you will ever understand. The mind is powerful, but it is also unruly when left unmanaged. It will pull you toward comfort, toward fear, toward doubt, toward every excuse it can manufacture just to keep you exactly where you are. If you don't take authority over your thoughts will quietly, gradually, and consistently take authority over your life. Your mind loves the familiar. It will try to protect you from anything that feels uncomfortable, even if that discomfort is the very thing that leads to growth. When you try to build discipline, your mind whispers, do it later. When you pursue a dream, it tells you you're not ready. When you attempt to break a bad habit, it reminds you of every time you failed. Not because it wants to destroy you, but because it wants to protect you from uncertainty. But the tragedy is this: the same mind that tries to protect you can also trap you. True freedom begins when you realize you do not have to believe every thought you think. You can challenge your doubts. You can redirect your focus. You can choose the thoughts that empower you instead of the ones that weaken you. Controlling your mind doesn't mean never feeling fear or hesitation. It means not letting those feelings decide your actions. When you take control, everything changes. You begin to act with intention instead of reacting from emotion. You start choosing discipline over impulse, purpose over distraction, and progress over procrastination. Your mind becomes a tool you use, not a cage you live in. The moment you understand that your thoughts are servants, not masters, you reclaim your power. You stop living by default and start living by design. And when you control your mind, you control your choices, your habits, your identity, and ultimately the direction of your entire life. Discipline isn't pain. Undisciplined living is. People spend their whole lives avoiding the discomfort of discipline, thinking they're choosing an easier path, but they don't realize they're trading a moment of effort for a lifetime of regret. The truth is, discipline asks for a small sacrifice now, while undisciplined living demands a much heavier price later. Waking up early, staying focused, saying no to distractions, doing what you promised yourself you would do. Yes, it requires effort. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but that discomfort is temporary. It fades the moment you start seeing progress. It disappears the moment you realize you're becoming someone stronger. Undisciplined living, on the other hand, looks easy the moment, but grows painful over time. It shows up as disappointment in yourself. It shows up as opportunities you weren't prepared for. It shows up as dreams that die slowly because you never gave them the consistency they needed to live. The pain of indiscipline is silent but heavy. Stress, anxiety, self-doubt, lack of direction, the feeling that life is happening to you instead of being shaped by you. Every time you choose discipline, you choose your future. Every time you avoid it, you delay your potential and deepen the weight of regret. The pain you feel when you push yourself is the pain of growth. The pain you feel when you avoid responsibility is the pain of staying exactly where you are. One pain strengthens you, the other weakens you. The incredible thing is that once you start practicing discipline, what used to feel hard becomes normal. Your standards rise, your confidence grows, your self-respect increases because you know you can trust yourself. And suddenly the things that once felt painful to start become painful to avoid. That's when discipline transforms from something you have to do into something you choose to do, because you finally understand that the real suffering doesn't come from being disciplined. It comes from living a life beneath your potential. Choose the pain that builds you, not the one that breaks you. Small, consistent actions beat giant, inconsistent effort, because progress is not built in dramatic moments. It's built in quiet repetitions. Everyone loves the idea of big leaps, massive breakthroughs, and sudden transformation. But the truth is that the greatest changes in your life will come from the small habits you commit to every day. A single workout won't make you strong, but showing up for 10 minutes every day will transform your body. Reading one book won't make you wise, but reading a few pages daily will reshape your men. Saving a huge amount once is helpful, but saving a little consistently creates wealth over time. Consistency compounds, and compounding is one of the most powerful forces in human growth. Inconsistent effort, even if intense, cannot produce reliable results because success needs continuity. When you start big but stop early, you teach yourself that you can't sustain progress. You lose momentum, you lose confidence, and eventually you lose belief in your own ability to change. But small actions are different. They're manageable, sustainable, and repeatable. They build a rhythm, and that rhythm becomes a routine. Once something becomes a routine, momentum takes over. You begin to see small wins, and those wins fuel your desire to keep going. People underestimate small actions because they don't create instant impact. But that's the point. Greatness grows quietly. It grows in the moments when no one is watching. It grows in the habits that seem insignificant. It grows in the choices that feel too small to matter. But over time, these small choices become your identity. You start to think differently, act differently, and eventually live differently. The beauty of small, consistent action is that it removes the pressure of perfection. You don't have to be extraordinary, you just have to be steady. You don't need massive motivation, you just need commitment. When you show up every day, even for a little bit, you build trust with yourself, and when you trust yourself, you become unstoppable. A giant effort can create a spark, but only small, consistent actions can keep the fire alive. The identity shift, becoming the person who does hard things, is the moment your entire life begins to change. Most people try to build discipline by forcing new habits onto an old identity, but that never lasts. You can try harder for a day, a week, maybe even a month, but if deep down you still yourself as someone who quits, someone who avoids discomfort, someone who just isn't disciplined, then your old identity will always pull you back. Real transformation happens when you stop trying to act disciplined and start seeing yourself as a disciplined person. When you become the person who does hard things, challenges stop feeling like threats and start feeling like confirmations of who you are. You no longer negotiate with your excuses because excuses don't match your identity. You don't let fear stop you because fear doesn't fit the story you're living. You don't choose the easy path because easy doesn't align with your standards. You begin to operate from a place of certainty, not struggle, because you know the hard thing is simply what you do. The identity shift is powerful because identity drives behavior. If you believe you are capable, you act capable. If you believe you are consistent, you act consistently. If you believe you are someone who follows through, you honor your commitments even when it's uncomfortable. Each difficult action you take becomes evidence of your new identity, and the more evidence you collect, the stronger that identity becomes. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It happens every time you choose progress over comfort, every time you push when you want to stop, every time you silence the voice that says later and replace it with now. These moments stack, they compound, and eventually they transform the way you see yourself. And once your identity changes, your life changes with it. You no longer rely on motivation. You no longer fear failure. You no longer doubt your ability to become better. You simply live as the version of you who does the things others avoid. The person who embraces challenge, the person who grows, the person who finishes, become that person. And everything else becomes possible. And now you stand at a crossroads. The same crossroads every great transformation begins with. You've heard the truth. Discipline is not a talent, it's a decision. Your results are shaped by the standards you hold every day. Your mind can be your greatest ally or your greatest enemy, depending on who's in control. The real pain isn't in discipline, it's in living a life beneath your potential. Small, consistent actions will take you further than any burst of motivation ever will. And who you become will always matter more than what you do, because identity is the engine behind every lasting change. So here is your moment. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when life gets easier. Now, this is your invitation to rise above excuses, to rewrite the story you've been living, to choose discipline. Not as a burden, but as a path to your highest self. No one is coming to save you, but the good news is you don't need saving. You need deciding. Decide to control your mind. Decide to raise your standards. Decide to do the small things daily. Decide to become the person who does hard things. Because once you make that decision, your life will stop happening to you and start happening because of you. And the future you've been dreaming about will no longer be a possibility. It will be your reality. This is your turning point. This is your new beginning. This is the moment you choose to become the person you were always meant to be. Your life is waiting. Step into it with discipline and watch everything change.